Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that you sent into Eyewitness Portal. Our first picture shows a flooded situation around Ayagolo Avenue off Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, the River State capital. This is after an overflow from the Mummy B Canal to Waja. Our Eyewitness reporter expects the government to dredge the canal, which contract was abandoned. Our next picture shows a damaged road around Kapua Junction off First Avenue within the Federal Housing Lube in the Federal Capital Territory. Residents are calling on the Federal Housing Authority and AMAC Authority to repair the road. The wet season really has done a lot of damage to communities in Ilupeju, Oshobo. Eyewitness reporter says roads have been cut off and therefore pleads for government intervention. Fani Kayode Link Road from Avenue in Warri has been blocked by a bad portion, rendering the road totally unusable. Eyewitness reporter who sent this in wonders why the government turned a blind eye to their plight. Our final picture is quite terrible. Shows the state of Agbado Ijoko Road in Ogun State, completely abandoned. And this is affecting the economic situation of residents in the area. Well, there have been a lot of discussions on that loan of the federal government. So the president, Muhammadu Buhari, proposed to borrow lend, from the National Assembly 7 days after. People still talking about it. Public opinion still high. We have our in-house data analyst, Babajide Ogusowo, to help us with the latest and help us understand the figures and the facts. Babajide, thanks for joining us on the news at 10. Thanks. People have asked this question. $29.9 billion, is that too high?
It depends on how you look at it. Let's look at it with three perspectives. The first is there a need for the loan? And if we look at when the government came in May last year, external reserves was $28.5 billion. As at this morning, external reserves is only $24 billion. So we've seen a decline of $4.5 billion. That clearly shows and gives us an indication that there's a need for extra cash into the economy. The second thing that we need to also look at is what will the funds be used for? Now, what we have is an indicative summary of what the government has said the monies will be used for. So they've said $11 billion will be pumped into projects and programs, and they've said that $10 billion will go into special infrastructure. So cumulatively, we know between projects and infrastructure, 73% of the money will be utilized. But what's perhaps most important is the third reason, and that's to look at the results that we expect if we do get $29.6 billion. But what's interesting is something mysteriously happened exactly about 3 decades ago when President Buhari was the president then, in 1984, head of state, was that there was so much economic crisis over a figure he had talked about. And that figure was exactly $29.9 billion as well.
There it is, $30 billion.
Exactly.
Naira, rather, as at then.
So then the president had come out with a figure of 29.9. Exact figure he's talking about today. So it makes us believe that perhaps that is his most favorite number. So then we're looking at 29.9 billion naira as our debt, the favorite number of the president. Today we are looking at $29.9 billion as potential monies that we want to borrow. But what Nigerians are really concerned about is that do we potentially have a history of borrowing and it's impacting on the economy? And what the evidence clearly shows right now is that whenever external borrowing does go up, real GDP does decline. In simple terms, it means that there's no direct correlation between our thirst for external funds and economic growth.
You've given a lot of thought to this. So should we borrow or should we not borrow?
We need to borrow, because we only have two options out of this thing. Is that we borrow, we don't borrow. But we need to really look at making more money. When the Indian Prime Minister came in, Narendra Modi, and it was with the IMF chief, and they were talking about India borrowing some money. Here's what he said. He said, India doesn't need money. He says India needs ideas. So what we need to look at is keep an eye on the need to be able to pump more money into the economy, but also keep an eye on ideas. And I'll give you a quick example of why we need to raise more income and put more money into the economy. Just last year, the United States spent $3.4 trillion for its approximately 320 million people. That's, in simple terms, an average of $10,500 per person. In Nigeria, we're looking at 6 trillion now for just the 180, or just 66 trillion now for 186 million people. In simple terms, that's just an average of $100 per person in Nigeria compared to $10,500 in the United States. Here's what it means. For every $100 the United States government spends, the Nigerian government only spends $1. So the economy really does need money to reflate it. But though we need more money, we need to clearly articulate how these monies will be spent and how these monies will be used to grow the economy, because the evidence currently shows our external debt, based on the evidence from 1999 to 2015, external debt doesn't correlate with economic growth.
Breaking down the facts and figures. Thanks a lot for joining us, Babajide. We turn our attention now to Adamawa State, where residents of Kodomun community have received a lifeline following months after a deadly attack from armed Fulani herdsmen. The community was visited by a block of the Christian Association of Nigeria, who donated relief materials, including food items, to the people. While expressing their gratitude for the relief materials from CAN, some leaders of the community also appealed for assistance from the state government. Wait. In the meantime, the central bank governor, Mr. Kodomun, says Nigeria will become self-sufficient in rice production in less than 5 years. Mr. Emefiele, who led the presidential task force on rice and wheat production to Cross River State for an assessment tour, says Cross River has been given 3 billion of the 26 billion naira set aside for the Anchor Borrowers Program.
An assessment visit to prospective and functional rice farms in Bekwara local government area of Cross River State by the Presidential Task Force on Rice and Wheat Production, led by the Central Bank Governor, Mr. Kodomun Emefiele. The aim is to assess the progress of the Rice Anchor Borrowers Program in the state, which has 3 billion naira allocation from the Central Bank for rice production. With a provision of 18,000 square kilometers and 78,000 prospective farmers who are expected to produce up to 5 metric tons of rice per hectare, the state governor is optimistic about Cross River's rice yield in the near future.
I'd like to assure the entire country that Cross River State will aggressively pursue this rice anchor borrower program. That by the close of 1 year, Cross River State will be competing neck to neck with KB.
Nigeria consumes about 6 million metric tons of rice per annum, but produces less than half of that. The central bank governor believes that forex restriction on rice importation will boost Nigeria's chances of rice sufficiency before 2020, while the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Rice and Wheat, Senator Atiku Bagudu, expects significant sufficiency by 2017.
From what we have seen across Nigeria, by the end of the year, there will be enough rice for us to be declared self-sufficient.
What we have done is to restrict foreign exchange allocation to those who want to import rice. And as a result of that restriction, it has given a lot of encouragement to our farmers, not just through the Anchor Borrower program. There are people who were into rice farming before deportation flooded our country. Now everybody is jumping into the game, and they are beginning to see that now they can also be wealthy being rice farmers, and that is the message we are trying to pass across.
There are currently 40 integrated rice mills across Nigeria, which are expected to process up to 5 metric tons of rice per hour. The country has 36 silos targeted to store up to 100 million metric tons of rice. The CBN governor says the nation's scarce foreign reserve would not be used to import any agricultural product the nation has in abundance. The bank is also set to support anyone ready to farm rice, cassava, palm, and other agricultural products to feed the nation and create export opportunities. Omelogo, Nadi Channels Television News.
Some communities and major towns in Delta State may be experiencing improved power supply, but certainly not for Ibusa community, as residents claim they've been without electricity since February. Another account also has it that for 7 years the community has been shut out of electricity supply. But the Benin Distribution Company dismisses the account of lack of electricity, accusing the community of employing the services of an illegal contractor to power the town. Our community report tonight takes a look at the Ibusa station.
This is the Agbo Urome Road. It is the road that feeds the Auchi Abuja Road.
Now you're talking.
Ibuzo is about 5 kilometers to Asaba. One of the towns located west of the Niger Basin, it has emerged as one of the fastest growing towns in Delta North, with a population of over 500,000. Majority of the people here are traders, while a few of them engage in fishing and farming. But the economy here depends heavily on transportation. Despite this boisterous transportation system and intense human activities, people here have been starved of electricity for about 7 years now.
There's no light in Ibuzo. By last year, December, they brought light. Over 2 months of it, then they took the light off.
The light issue here in Ibuzo is not fair. It's not fair. Please, if government should help, let Ibuzo have light. At least the bill. Everybody know that once you are using lights, you have to pay your bill.
Some people who can afford it struggle to power their homes and businesses with generator sets, while those who cannot only hope for the better.
A little money that we will work as I'm an engineer. Sometimes if I don't still work, contractor, I will go daily pay 4,000 naira. Before I come back, I spend transport, buy food for my children. The remaining money, maybe 1,000 naira. I buy fuel, like 500 naira.
In a day, you find out that when you're running your business, in a day, you spend nothing less than 500 naira a day for the purchase of fuel. And if you check what you're doing, making profit from there is a problem.
When BDEC came, and BDEC charged the consumption of 23 to 25 transformers on 10 transformers, the bill was outrageously high, and the community shouted. So there were a lot of people who had light but had no bill, and there were few people who had light but had an outrageous bill. Having stayed 7 years without light, they were forgotten how electricity bills were paid.
We fell out of agreement, and I believe that we're getting close to the solution. So hopefully by the grace of God, by December, we will smile.
The BDEC Corporate Affairs Officer, Esther Okolie, acknowledges that concerted efforts were made by the community to fix the power problem prior to December 2015, explaining that the community hired the services of another contractor illegally.
They sent delegates to our headquarters, Benin, where they met with the top management, and it was agreed. They listed out the 10 transformers they wanted us to energize, and in line with that, we energized it. But surprisingly to us, they went behind to collaborate with a contractor to energize additional 15 transformers unknown to us. That gave rise to the outrageous bill they're talking about, because at the 7.5 substation at Ibuzo, from where we serve them, there's a meter there that reads the consumption from the whole community. In fact, we were reading the meters with their delegates. So it was the consumption from that meter that was used to generate bills for them. In line with NEC rule, we're supposed to penalize them, but their delegates pleaded with our top management and we decided to waive that.
Electricity is a critical infrastructure for any developing entity to survive. And for these people, hopes are high that the issues that have kept them in darkness for 7 years will be resolved at least before the Christmas celebration in December.
Etisola, now you're talking.
Next on the news at 10, FC Fayumba and Rivers Angels emerged champions in the final of the Men's and Women's Federation Cup. We'll have more in sports news. Please stay with us.